Welcome to our Beat Lighthouse. I'm Lorena, and our guest is a passionate technologist with more than 25 years in the industry, building SaaS platforms, VoIP systems, networks, and companies. Wedge Martin became an entrepreneur by believing that the internet will be the future. Welcome, Wedge. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Lorena. You make me sound really old, but
Your experience is a value for us, and I really appreciate joining us. Thank you very much.
yeah, glad to be here.
You participated in the creation of several startups, right? What common aspects did the successful ones have when we compared to those that didn't progress?
I think team and alignment. It's really important, especially when it's you and a co-founder starting out. You really have to be focused on the same goals. Um, Probably the most success I had in a startup. We were aligned on pretty much everything except our long term goals. Uh, but it's really important, and you need to get that out and communicated right up front. You need to make sure that everything's sort of in line with your
Yeah.
team. But hiring a great team, and it's hard, especially here in Silicon Valley. I mean, you're competing with a lot of companies, big ones, really good companies and startups alike. So make sure you get good people and have a really good hiring practice, and make sure that you instill in your team the culture that you want the company to be long term, because it's easy to lose sight of that. I always tell people after 50 employees, people start showing up for a job. They're no longer on your pirate ship, as a family conquering territories.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Culture for us is very, very important as well. You mentioned it about the team, but how does Silicon Valley differ from other regions in the US in terms of the startup environment?
I think that the investor community here makes a big difference. They're very tech savvy. Um, I think that they understand what the kind of the DNA is of a successful team, and they look for that. So they weed out a lot of companies. We see through the Silicon House program that Andrea runs, that I mentor and often talk to many of the startups that come through. That oftentimes will have a really good idea and maybe even some funding behind them, but they don't have a core team of technologists that'll help it succeed. And that might work in other places, but in Silicon Valley, they really want to see a reputable, established tech co-founder.
For an owner who is starting their startup now and has just arrived in the valley, what tips would you give them to make the most of the opportunities?
Go out and socialize and establish a network, because it's really hard here if you don't have
And
some
how
people.
to do it, please share with
Yeah,
them some tips.
I think when we met in person, I told you a fun story about my friend Niraj, who in 2000, when the economy died here, that they call it the dot-com bust. Um, he lost his job, but he had just arrived, so he had no network. And I tried to help him, but it was just really a lot of people applying for the few positions that were available. And he called me up one day and he said, "I got a job." I said, "How'd you do it?" And he said, "Well, I figured out that people that have jobs, they go for a beer after work at happy hour. So I just started going to pubs at 4 p.m. and having a beer and meeting people." So he drank his way to success. Literally, it was great.
Yeah. You have been involved in the Silicon House project for several years.
Mhm.
Could you share its history, how it works, and how this project has been supporting these startups, including networks, right?
Yeah. I think they just had their 10th birthday recently, their 10th anniversary. It really started with Andrea Lito and her passion for helping startups and helping people. And
By the way, an amazing person. Andrea is an amazing person, and I will invite her to share her knowledge with us. So,
great,
yes,
yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. But
me too.
she's lived in Silicon Valley for close to 30 years now, and I think uh, she really adopted the way of life here, which is everyone tries to help everyone else. I mean, it's difficult here. There are a lot of people kind of vying for the same investment dollars and trying to establish companies and be the first one with new technology. So it's really important to have that kind of helpful attitude, and it's reciprocated everywhere you go. People talk to you, they say, "What are you trying to build?" And immediately start thinking about who can I connect you with that'll help you on your journey. And so that's really what it was born out of.
Yes. As the founder of Badgeville, a startup that raised over $40 million, what were your major challenges before and after securing funding?
Let's see. So before, it was really kind of validating the product, finding people that were willing to pay for it. Fortunately, my co-founder, that was originally his idea. We had kicked around a few different things, but when he brought up this concept for a gamification platform, back when people hadn't heard the word gamification yet, everywhere I looked, there was some indication that this was the right way to go. And he's really good at selling concepts. So we were able to drum up some business. We actually had 10 paying customers by the time we went and competed in TechCrunch Disrupt in San Francisco in 2010. And that spoke really well to our panel. I mean, we really had a really difficult panel of judges. We had Marissa Meyer, who was the CEO of Yahoo. We had Joe Lonsdale, who's the co-founder of Palantir. I mean, we had some pretty 5-star panelists. So it was difficult, but that spoke well that we actually had gone out and we drummed up some business and had customers. So out of all the 25 finalists, we were the only ones that had 10 paying customers, and we'd also raised the smallest amount of money by then. The second part of your question, the challenges that come after, after you get some success and take off, is it was just hyper growth. I mean, everything moves so quickly that we raised a lot of money, but you really need to find your market fit. I was more of a fan of not doing our third round of funding and just finding more of a niche market that we could go after that was addressable instead of just trying to hyper scale it. I really wanted to take a slower pace, and figure out where we fit in and make sure that we can bring real value to our customers.
One comment, because sometimes people think that the final point here is funding, but actually is the start point, right? All
Yes.
the challenges, I suppose, that become bigger and harder. So if you can explain more this kind of mindset, because I know one thing that I have a goal, I have to bring the money here, obviously, but after it, we have to work hard to do it. And could you share more details about it and how you deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. The first problem you run into is, when you're raising funding, it's typically because you need resources, right? You need primarily in the way of people resources. And so you get a big pile of money in your bank account and you go, all right, now I have to go and hire those people. And it's hard, you need to do it quickly typically. And it's just very hard to go through the process. And when you're a small company, especially, all those first hires are so important. If you have one bad hire at that point, it can be disastrous for your little company. So that's a challenge. It's a really tough challenge. Having the money is just the first step. Like you said, that's really where the challenges begin. But making sure that you've got a good network. Fortunately for us, we were a little older when we started Badgeville. And we had some people that we could pick from. We knew people that we had worked with in the past that we'd stayed in touch with, said, hey, we need a good marketing person now, or we need a good product person now. And it is a tightly knit community here in Silicon Valley, especially when you've been here, 20 plus years.
And thinking in what we said about the team, again, the importance of the team, right? Because it's not only to build the prototype and validate the idea, but after it, we have to trust in them. So yes, again, I think that you have 100% of, you were right, because the team, again, even in this second phase, it's very, very important, right?
Yeah, and there's a balance too in that, the other challenge about raising the money is it goes really quickly. It always goes faster than you think it's going to go. And there's also I tell people, raise money before you feel like you really need to, because it's like going and getting a job. It's easier to get a job when you already have a job. But if you're struggling and you need cash, it's a lot harder to raise money.
Yeah.
So if the market is frothy, if there's a lot of investment money being thrown around, it's good to take advantage of that before you really need it. So, and when you're growing as quickly as we were in that case, not wanting to take the money was risky in that, you don't know if the market might turn around. I've lived here 28 years. We've seen it come, ebb and flow. And sometimes the investment community is frothy and sometimes it's not. Right now, the AI ML scene here is is crazy. Companies getting billion-dollar
Yeah,
valuations,
yeah.
billion-dollar investments, barely shipping a product. So but it'll disappear again too, and the industry will change. We'll see a different season.
Yeah, great insights. In addition to being an entrepreneur, you are an exceptional software engineer, right? In your opinion, yeah, I know you are. In your opinion, how to incorporate AI, you never heard about it, right? Into technology projects best, and do you think will change the way we currently develop for software?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that question. And we're already seeing it kind of change the software landscape. I'm seeing people use AI to generate bits of code that I didn't expect people would. You normally, as a developer, you've written certain things many times, and you'll kind of shake out these common sets of code that you'll carry with you. But I am seeing people leverage it to just do the grunt work. If I need a routine that does these 5 simple things, and it'll spit out some nicely formatted code for you. There are tools like Code Whisperer. There's some AI-based software development tools that are really good at helping you work out the kinks and write good code. So it is changing that landscape. As far as incorporating AI into your products, there's so much going on today. If I gave you 10 minutes of advice now, it would be completely different a month from now, because we're seeing that landscape change so quickly. Smaller, focused, purpose-built models that can do specific tasks, but not necessarily focus on the human language interface. I think that's going to be the future. There's so many limitations right now. If we're looking at even the models that support 100K context, it's really people trying to push the boundaries of what they do just by feeding context in the AI instead of having to train these big, expensive models. I think things are going to get a lot more efficient in the next few months. I think we're going to see much smaller, more effective models. And of course, Moore's law, all the hardware is going to get, it's going to double in processor speed and GPU speed. So it's exciting. It's a crazy time to be in the Bay Area. I don't know if you're familiar with the hype curve that's been passed around for ages, but it's tribal knowledge that when new technology comes, there's this giant spike in the hype and the excitement about it, but then there's the trough of disillusionment when the marketing and the hype comes back to reality. But then you see the curve go up again, but at a steady pace once people really understand what the boundaries of that technology are and begin to build useful and valuable products.
Yeah, and I'm thinking here because at the end of the day, you're talking about a tool. It means that we have to keep the focus on the product as well. Obviously, sometimes it's amazing bring this kind of tool, AI, to projects, but sometimes no. So even if we are living an amazing moment in terms of AI, we still have to think on the product, in the users, in monetization this product. So yeah, I agree with you. We have to understand better how to use it in the best way as possible, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And you'll see people adopting it without really a strategy yet. Well, we know we have to have AI or investors aren't going to take it seriously, but you really need to be thoughtful about how you're going to incorporate it and what it can do for you. It reminds me of this old cartoon here where long ago, this guy is sitting on a front porch of someone's house, and he's got his laptop, and he's talking to his friends in instant messaging, and he says, I don't know if Karen's home. I figured out how to connect to her Wi-Fi, and I logged into her entertainment system, and I was playing text-to-speech files through the speaker on her computer that's connected to her television, and she hasn't responded yet, so I don't know what's going on. And his friend says, did you ring the doorbell? And he hadn't quite thought of that yet,
Exactly. And sometimes I heard about, okay, we are increasing 30% of productivity in terms of creation code, but are your code simple? It solves the problem of the product. So it's not a matter only of build faster, but build the best one. So yeah, I think that the human perspective is still there, and we never can, we have to bring it before tools, before any kind of technology. We are humans and we have to use our intellectual capital first. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So we have been inspired a lot of people, included me, but I want to know which individuals or companies are always on your radar as a source of update and inspiration.
Really, it's the companies you find out about through the network here, and the network might be through investor communities. Like I like to watch companies like Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia. Like who are they investing in? And you learn about a lot of really interesting companies and technologies that way. I mean, that's really my portal into what's happening is looking at what the kind of established, respected VCs here are taking a look at.
Yeah, great. Wedge, thank you very much. This podcast was an amazing experience. Please feel free to share your final insights or message.
Yeah, no, I greatly appreciate you having me. It's a refreshing speaking with you all at Bitbound there. You're on the leading edge. You know, it's kind of surprising to me that you're not a Silicon Valley company, but you're based down in Brazil. And you know, I hope we have a pretty good big outreach. I'd love to do it again. And yep, let's stay in
Yeah,
touch.
we're based in Coral Gables, Florida, but our focus is in US. We have been working in the Brazilian market for the last 20 years, but on the last 2 years, we have supported especially startups in the US market and has been an amazing experience. So it's always a pleasure to learn more about technology, about your experience. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorena. Great talking to you.
Thank you, folks. See you soon on our next podcast. Bye bye.
Ciao.